Tonight, the voters putting their trust in the wild card. We head to the only Muslim-majority city in America, where Arab voters see Trump as their only hope. Playground politics, we dig deep into a community angry and concerned about events further afield.
I'd rather choose someone that isn't interested in killing off my people.
Coming up, I'll ask Tiffany Trump's father-in-law, a prominent Lebanese businessman, why he thinks the former president has the answers. Also ahead tonight. Israel's bombardment continues in Lebanon. We'll have the latest from Beirut, where a missile struck just meters away from the country's largest hospital. Meanwhile, in Gaza, the dire situation worsens, with the UN warning the Strip may never recover from the war. I'll speak to a charity helping those left homeless. Plus, all is fine. Putin hosts 20 heads of state in a message of defiance to the West. We'll cross live to the summit. Hello, good evening. If I began by telling you the only Muslim-majority city in the whole of the United States would like the sound of Trump returning to the White House, you may be surprised. He is, of course, the president who called for a Muslim ban, the man who insists immigrants are poisoning the blood of America. But with less than 2 weeks to go until the election, it's clear that events further afield are shifting the dial. The Middle East has become the issue for first-time voters up and down the country, and each candidate's thoughts, comments, plans and track record matter, especially in key battleground states like Michigan. With a population of just over 10 million people, 3% are Arab American. In 2016, Donald Trump was the first Republican to win the state since 1988, but it was tight. Just 11,000 votes separated him from Hillary Clinton. In 2020, Joe Biden took back the state for the Democrats by just over 150,000 votes. Well, in a moment, I'll hear from someone in Trump's inner circle, his daughter's Lebanese father-in-law, who thinks the former president is the right man for the job, and a Democrat congressman who couldn't disagree more. But first, Mark Stone has been to 2 cities in Michigan that could hold the keys to the White House.
He's a straight shooter, I'm a straight shooter. He might not be the answer.
Well, I don't think there's anything worse than what's happening now.
It's a chance. With the Democrats, I have no chance.
He tried to steal the election.
I'd rather choose someone that isn't interested in killing off my people.
Democrats, leaders in the state, have basically abandoned the community. And I think the damage is great.
America is full of contradictions. This is the story of one of them, the Arab Americans who will vote for Donald Trump. It is at a high school in Michigan, on the edge of Detroit, within the all-American experience, that you find the views that may help shape the future here.
We don't know what she's going to provide. We don't know what she's going to do. So I think it's just a safer bet to go for Donald Trump.
I'm actually asking people around me to see what they're voting, and the most person that I got is they're voting for Donald Trump.
Really?
Yeah.
Look it up. If this feels in Congress, well then drill a bit deeper, because this is a section of American society shifting. The students here are first and second generation immigrants, and overwhelmingly Arab American. The teachers are too. They call him Mr. Gus. Hassan Shahab is a pillar of this place, Palestinian by birth, American now to the core, and Trump is his man.
I think Trump is not a politician. He is just a regular person. It happens that he's a billionaire or a millionaire, whatever it is, but he has morals. I'm a conservative. All Middle Eastern people are conservative, Christians and Muslims. We are conservative people.
In his last presidency, many would see him as trampling on Palestinian rights, on aspirations. He moved the Israeli embassy to Jerusalem. He hasn't endorsed an arms embargo. I wonder how that fits with your history and your views.
Give me one president who did.
In the canteen, Mr. Gus's views have prompted debate. among a thoughtful bunch of first-time voters.
I do like having educated conversations with a lot of my teachers, like outside of class time.
My parents probably split, but we never talk about it. I think they're gonna support Donald Trump because of like the way they give tax dollars to them and everything.
I'm definitely leaning towards Kamala at the moment.
Frontier International Academy is in the heart of Hamtramck, the only Muslim-majority city in America. And there is no better place to understand how shifting loyalties, changing politics, will help mold the result of this election. Because the path to the White House without winning here is hard to see, and it's all about the margins.
Hello, Mr. Mayor. Mark from Sky News. How are you?
Amir Ghalib is the Democratic Party mayor here. His office is a reflection of his political roots. But look what happened on Friday.
Why Trump?
It's a combination of two things. Disappointment at the current administration and hope that the new administration led by Trump, if he wins the election, will do something different that will help resolve some of the issues locally and internationally.
And that's what's most revealing about all this. The shift to the right here is a consequence of a gradual leftward shift by the Democrats. It's about the real war in the Middle East, yes, but it's also about culture wars in America, too. Last year, an attempt to fly a pride flag on city property was blocked by the mayor and his team.
There is so much aggression and attempts to enforce certain values on the majority of this community, on schools, on public properties, city hall buildings. The Democratic Party is not doing anything to prevent that shift in dynamics.
No one from Team Harris has reached out to you?
No.
Does that surprise you?
It does. They think I'm a fake Democrat. They just think of us as numbers in their pocket during the elections.
But do you not think that Donald Trump just sees you as a number in his pocket?
Donald Trump, listen, I requested if he wants our support, I want to meet him personally.
And he came?
And he came, and he listened to me.
Drive west out of Hamtramck through the Detroit suburbs and you'll reach Dearborn. About half the population here is Arab American, most of them from Lebanon. It's wealthier here. The dynamics are different. More progressive, yes, and yet coffee with local political activist Samra Luqman should alarm the Harris campaign.
2016, how did you vote?
I voted for Hillary Clinton.
2020?
I wrote in Bernie Sanders' name in the general.
And 2024?
I'm voting for Trump.
Wow.
Policy-wise, I don't like any of the Republican policies, to be frank, at all. I don't think I agree with a single thing.
Yet you'll still vote for him?
I will still vote for him because one thing I hate more than all those other policies is genocide. There is no other issue to me of importance or of consequence. None. My children, I came home the day I met Trump and I gave my son a MAGA hat and I said, I guess we're there. And he said, ew. His first words to me were, ew. I said, but Baba, he said he's gonna stop the war. And he said, okay, that's it. Give me that hat. We're voting for Trump. And that's the sentiment, not just of an 8-year-old, but of an entire community. If you're gonna stop the war, even if I don't like you, I'm on your team.
Inside the Yemeni-run cafe, Sarah Chabin is voting for the first time. It is a conversation that reflects a conviction on one issue, but compounded by a broader conflation.
What about the prospects of America's first female president?
It's just not enough for me to want to vote for her. On one hand, you have a former president. He says he wants to fix the situation and that a war wouldn't have happened if he were president. But at the same time, he says some conflicting things about us, some racist things. And on the other hand, you have Kamala and all of these promises she's making. Like she had time to do them, and I don't think she's going to.
This journey through communities which now feel forgotten and unheard ends where it started for them. It was Detroit's Ford factory which drew so many Middle Eastern immigrants here, and with the founder of the local Democratic Party caucus, a startling conclusion.
I could assure you that it's not just about Michigan. This is a nationwide phenomenon. I am worried. I am very worried. I think the damage is great.
Do you think that the Democratic Party has messed up this campaign?
Yes, I believe so. I really do.
And so it is then about much more than the war. It's the threat to their conservative values. They came to America for the freedom to live their life their way. It won't take many to swing this state and streamline the path to the White House. Here, through all the contradictions, they are swinging to Trump. Mark Stone, Sky News in Michigan.
Well, as if to underline the fears of the difficulties in the Middle East, there's been another explosion in Beirut. Let's take a look. And Israel's military has also confirmed this evening the killing of Hashem Safieddin, heir apparent to the Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah, who was also killed by Israel. Well, I'm joined now by Dr. Massad Boulos, the father-in-law of Donald Trump's daughter. Tiffany, great to have you on the show. Thanks for joining us. Dr. Boulos, this is an issue clearly that is very close to your heart. You have been quietly working, we understand, speaking to people in Michigan, persuading this specific electorate to vote Republican. Are you the man who almost single-handedly could win Michigan for Donald Trump?
Well, first of all, good evening, Anna, and thank you for inviting me. It's a big pleasure to be with you. Yes, we've been working on Michigan. I've spent a lot of time there with my community. They are my brothers, my sisters. They are family to me, and they have become definitely family to me. I've spent probably about 5 or 6 months with them. The community there is quite diverse. You have seen in your beautiful report people from Yemen, from Lebanon, Iraq, Syria, Egypt, and so on. It's quite a diverse community. And while your report focuses mainly on the Muslim community, but there's quite a huge Christian community as well, Christians that come from Iraq and Lebanon and Egypt and other places. That are quite influential as well in this, especially in this election cycle. So you can see that the tide is turning. There's a huge wave. There's a huge shift towards the Republican Party and towards President Trump. I must say here that historically speaking, mainly due to conservative values and other economic factors and so on, most of the Arab American communities or voters used to vote Republican in the past, but this changed, unfortunately, post 9/11. Post 9/11, we've seen especially the Muslim and Arab American communities shift towards the Democrat Party until now. Now there's a considerable shift for mainly 2 reasons, but also a third one, which is the same. The third one is basically all the other matters that affect every single U.S. citizen and resident in the United States. The first 2 are the social values, and you could see from your report the major issues that our communities are facing with the woke ideology. And the second one is the war in the Middle East. They've seen the huge difference in the approach and in the track record of the 2 administrations. And they've seen Donald Trump for 4 years in the White House. There were no wars. He was the only president in modern history that didn't start any war. He ended wars, he withdrew US troops, and he's a man of peace. He's the only one in recent history who was able to achieve 4 Abraham Accords, and he was about to achieve the 5th one with Saudi Arabia. and many other countries Arab countries were lined up.
Obviously fell on Joe Biden's watch in the end. But fundamentally, in terms of the rhetoric that we've heard from Donald Trump, this is really extraordinary. If we merely glance back to 2016, Mr. Trump declaring a ban on Muslims from, half a dozen or so countries arriving in America, a ban he's recently promised to reinstate, a man who now talks about bad genes arriving with migrants to America. Have people just forgotten what he's done and what he says? Or is this simply a new generation of voters that doesn't remember 2016 to 2020?
That's an excellent question, and thank you for asking me this question. The so-called Muslim ban, this was a reference used by the media, unfortunately. It was a program that was started by President Obama. President Trump continued with this program, of course, but he initially had a 90-day pause just to assess the situation. It only affected 6 Arab countries plus Iran. And those were war-torn countries in which there was extreme difficulty in verifying documents and information.
Refugee status in America, for example. War-torn countries, people who need help, like now, for example?
And it was a high level of vetting. It wasn't really a ban. It was just a high level of vetting because of these documents and information were really very hard to obtain and vet. Number two, those 6... oh, absolutely. Can you imagine if people can go into any other country without being vetted, whether they are from the Middle East or from Europe or from any other country? That's not the point. In fact, most of the people that were affected by this program were actually Christians from Iraq and Syria. If you look at the statistics, many more Christians were affected in Iraq and Syria than Muslims. And then if you look at the Muslim population around the globe, Muslims are more than 2 billion. In number. The countries affected do not account more than 1% of the global Muslim population. So you had the 99% of Muslims continue to come to the United States without any issue, without any delay.
Dr. Boulos, I don't mean to rush you. I want to get on to the current conflict, if you don't mind. You've held dozens of meetings, some suggest up to 100, with Arab American and Muslim voters, Arab American, including Christians, as you pointed out, in Michigan. What do you tell them Donald Trump will do if he wins? Will he say to Netanyahu, go ahead, finish the job, or enough is enough? Are we clear? Are they clear on what he would do?
Yeah, first of all, President Trump has made it very clear he's against those wars, and he strongly believes that these wars should not have happened, and they wouldn't have happened had he been in the White House. He strongly believes that these wars have happened mainly because we have a very weak administration, we have a weak president and weak administration in the White House. They have also released, as we know, hundreds of billions of dollars between the Obama administration and the Biden-Harris administration. They've released over $350 billion to Iran, which allowed Iran to finance their proxies in Lebanon, Hezbollah, and then Hamas in Gaza, and the Houthis in Yemen.
Right, Doctor, I do apologise for interrupting you, but what is his policy? Let's just listen, first of all, to what he said arriving on the tarmac just on Friday.
Well, look, he's doing a good job. Biden is trying to hold him back. Just so you understand, Biden is far superior to the VP. He's trying to hold him back, and he probably should be doing the opposite, actually. I'm glad that Bibi decided to do what he had to do, but it's moving along pretty good. Everything's moving along.
Well, there we go, suggesting there that Joe Biden is holding back Benjamin Netanyahu, clearly not about to pull support from the Israeli government, even in the past defending the legality of Israeli settlements in the West Bank, even moving the US embassy to Jerusalem. There's not a lot on offer there for Palestinians or indeed Lebanese people currently watching the rout of Hezbollah in their country.
Yeah. Thanks also for this tough question, but it's not tough because it's very easy. President Trump believes in peace, and when he talks about the speed, yes, he wants this to end very quickly. He wants in any case, the Hamas issue has practically ended. What we still need, the United States still needs to get the hostages back. Let's not forget, we still have 5 U.S. hostages that we hope are still alive. I mean, we had 8, and 3 have since been confirmed to be dead. We still have 5 hostages that we hope will be released. But that's with regards to the United States, and any president ought to have this as a top priority, getting the hostages back. But with regards to finishing the war quickly, whether it's in Gaza or in Lebanon, yes, President Trump supports finishing this job very quickly. I talk to Palestinians every day, and I talk to Lebanese and Yemenis and people from the region. They want this war to be over. And what do we mean by finish it quickly? You have some military targets that you have to accomplish, which is to get rid of the Hamas infrastructure and ability to launch new attacks and so on. This is what he means.
Have you seen Gaza recently? Have you seen northern Gaza? Have you seen people forced from northern Gaza? Have you seen southern Lebanon,
yes.
your own country?
Yes.
You know, what
I've
happens
seen
now
it,
if Netanyahu decides to persist and pursue Hezbollah in the same way that he has pursued Hamas? What would happen to Lebanon? What do you say then to Arab Americans about the potential for the war in Lebanon in the months to come?
What I tell them is we need a strong U.S. president to stop these wars, to put an end to these wars through peace.
How?
President Trump's doctrine is peace through strength, and his main aim and target is to achieve peace in the Middle East, lasting peace. Yes, it's very tough. From a humanitarian point of view, it's very, very sad. And even President Trump is very saddened, and he has expressed that he doesn't like to see any civilian death. And the civilian deaths we've seen on both sides, whether it's the Israeli or the Palestinian side, and definitely now in Lebanon, is extremely sad on all sides. And he doesn't want to see any more civilian death. He wants these wars to be over. But for these wars to be over, of course, we have to work on peace. We have to work on a roadmap for peace. But first, whatever military targets they need to achieve them very quickly. This cannot last for long and cannot take forever. And that's what he has been saying. And that's what he means by do it quickly or get the job done quickly. It's just finish those military targets that you have to do, achieve those, and let's move to peace, and let's move to rebuilding Gaza and rebuilding Lebanon. We want Gaza to be prosperous. We want the Palestinian people to be prosperous, to live in peace, to live in harmony, side by side with the Israelis in full security on both sides. Same thing with Lebanon. We want Lebanon to prosper again. I haven't been back to my own native country, my home country, for many years because of this situation. I would love to go back. I would love for my own children to go back to Lebanon. Lebanon used to be known as the Switzerland of the Middle East, and Beirut was the Paris of the Middle East. We want this to come back. The Lebanese people are fed up. Yes.
I just wanted to ask you, if you don't mind, about happier news as well. Obviously, offering congratulations to your son Michael and to Tiffany as well on the news of their baby. It's another grandchild, obviously, for Donald Trump. How is he bearing up? Talk of him being exhausted. He's obviously in his late 70s. For the family as well, you know, how tiring is this? This is the third time of asking. They've been taken on this journey with him to be the president again. You know, how tough is everybody finding it?
Oh, thank you. First of all, thank you very much. And it was indeed great news, and what a beautiful way to announce it to the world by the president. It was really nice. Look, with regards to your question, you're right. It's not easy. It's a full-time job, and he didn't have to do this. But the energy that this great man has is just unparalleled. It's unbelievable. He has much more energy than any of us. This guy works almost 24 hours a day. It's a non-stop move. He's on the move. He's non-stop working. He does sometimes 3 or 4 events a day, rallies and events. He does numerous press conferences and interviews. He does conferences by phone and phone calls. It's a continuous work all day long, and he has a great energy. And he didn't have to do this. He's a billionaire. He could have been retired. He could have been on any beach now, enjoying his time with his beautiful wife and beautiful family and beautiful grandkids, and just resting. But he's doing this for America. He's doing this for the world. I'm in contact with many people all over the world.
He's not doing it to stay out of prison.
Oh, absolutely not. This issue of prison came because he's running. It didn't come, it wouldn't have come otherwise. It came because they're
what about you,
weaponizing the
Dr.
justice system.
And what about you, Dr. Boulos? Fancy a run at the White House yourself, yes or no?
Oh, my aim is just to help my country, to help Lebanon, to help the Middle East in any way I can. I'm a U.S. citizen, so I'm also here to serve my country in any way I can help or assist. That's all I'm aiming for. I have no other ambitions.
Dr. Massad Boulos, great to have you on the show. Thank you for your thoughts. Very interesting. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the view there from Donald Trump's in-law via his daughter Tiffany, of course. But what do the Democrats make of this potential shift in position by Arab Americans? I'm joined now by, excuse me, Sri Thanadar, Democratic congressman for Michigan. Critically, this is an issue for Michigan, isn't it, about Arab Americans and Muslim voters. What is going so wrong here for the Democrats that could lose this once loyal vote?
Well, look, every vote is important. Every vote is critical. Michigan is a battleground state. Michigan is a purple state. And this election is extremely close. And no one will have, will be able to win presidency without winning Michigan. So winning Michigan is absolutely important. So the labor vote is important. The Arab American vote is important. African American vote is important. Asian American vote is important.
You say that, but our correspondent speaking to people in Michigan said no Democrats had come knocking on their doors. Have you given up?
No, we have not given up. President Kamala Harris would be the best president to resolve the issues in Gaza. And Trump has been a racist. Trump has been anti-Muslim. Trump has in the past been anti-immigrants. And it is the wrong candidate to put their faith in. So this is really some Arab Americans who are supporting Trump are doing so, at a disadvantage to their own community. I think Trump has shown in the past his support for the white supremacists, and he's just a racist attitude in the past. And no one should forget that. This is as recent as 4 years ago.
There is no doubt the balancing act is extremely difficult. For example, Kamala Harris made the decision not to go to a Catholic evening. Donald Trump was there making everybody laugh and so on because it might have watered down her message on abortion. Same here. How does she balance this ironclad support for Israel that the US administration says it has for those who now simply cannot countenance seeing any further deaths amongst people in Gaza? How does she balance that?
Look, nobody should be a single issue voter. There is a lot at stake. It's the economy. It's in terms of Donald Trump really is catering to the rich and the most powerful, giving tax breaks to the millionaires and billionaires. Kamala Harris is focused on small businesses, entrepreneurship, give access to capital for small businesses. So there is a lot at stake here in terms of women's rights. We need to codify Roe into the US Constitution. We need to protect workers' rights. There is a lot that is riding on this. And Muslim Americans, Arab Americans need to look at this whole package, not just be looking at one issue. And even on that one issue about Gaza and Middle East peace, Trump will not do any better. So I think they need to really look at this whole thing in the right perspective and compare the two candidates, which are night and day difference.
Sri Thanadar, Democratic congressman for Michigan. Great to have you on. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Well, we heard from a little earlier. Mark Stone joins me now from Washington. So one state, a critical one, Michigan, that you focused on, Mark. Conflicted questions for voters to consider, no doubt, which might make all the difference to the end result. Your thoughts then on hearing both sides as we have this evening?
Yeah, really fascinating interviews just then. I just thought Dr. Boulos's answer to your question where he said
Thanks for the tough question, but actually it's very easy to answer. And then he went on effectively not to answer it. He's threading a needle because it is not at all clear what Donald Trump's policy on the Middle East, on Gaza, on Lebanon would be. He has been distinctly unclear about how he would solve that particular issue. In fact, he's been much clearer about how he would end the war in Ukraine. What we do not know is what Gaza would look like, or indeed what Lebanon would look like, or what pressure Donald Trump could or would put on Prime Minister Netanyahu in a second Trump presidency. And clearly, the people of Michigan that we spoke to, and it is the same in other states as well, where there are Arab American communities, they're gambling, they're taking a risk, they're rolling the dice. They believe that there is a 100% chance, in the view of one person I spoke to, that under the Democrats, things will stay as they are now, which is, as they say, they believe to be genocide. If there is only a 99% chance that things will be that bad under Donald Trump, then they're willing to take that. But you know, the striking thing for me, Anna, I went there believing, as that congressman just said, that this was a one-ticket issue for the people there, that Gaza was all that mattered to them. Absolutely not the case. Gaza has been the tipping point. But since 2001, during 9/11, that was the point at which so many Arab Americans went over to the Democrats because of what George Bush did in Iraq and in Afghanistan. They went to the Democrats then. They are now going back, not just because of Gaza, but because of woke issues, as they put it, of social conservatism. They are traditionally conservative, and they find that their home is more with the Republicans than with the Democrats. And Donald Trump is seizing on that, and he's running with it.
Well, 2 weeks to go, Mark, and you'll be sitting in our US election studio beginning to pore over the exit polls, the battleground states, beginning to report a fascinating final 2 weeks to go. Thank you. Well, we have some breaking news now regarding the US election and the British Labour Party. I'm joined now by our chief political correspondent, John Craig. A complaint, it seems, from Donald Trump's presidential campaign team. Tell us more.
This all relates to a story that appeared in the Daily Telegraph last Thursday, talking about how Labour were planning to send or offering to send volunteers, 100 of them, to campaign for Kamala Harris in swing states. Now, at the time, Republicans were furious and complained. So their cheerleader, Elon Musk, said it was illegal. There are all sorts of outpourings of anger. Now we have a legal complaint. This is from a lawyer called Gary Laukowski. Polish name, obviously. He's written to the Federal Election Commissioner. He's a Trump-supporting lawyer. He's described on his website as a creative, solutions-orientated attorney who focuses on political law and election law. He has complained. He wants an investigation. Now, what they're basing this on is the Telegraph story quoting an email from, or rather a LinkedIn post from a woman called Sophia from the Labour Party. Let me get her surname for you. I've got so many stories. Here we are. So Sophia Patel, Labour's head of operations, said on a LinkedIn post last Wednesday, I have nearly 100 Labour Party staff, current and former, going to the US to campaign in various states over the next few weeks. North Carolina, Nevada, Pennsylvania and Virginia. And she talked about helping our friends across the pond. Let's show those Yanks how to win elections, she apparently said. Well, Liz Truss at the time tweeted, President Trump's definitely going to win now. Tonight, Liz Truss has tweeted again, saying, Labour are doing huge damage to Britain's standing and economy. The last thing America needs is these disastrous policies. Unbelievably arrogant and foolish of them to interfere in the US election. That's the claim by the Republicans. It's illegal. They want an investigation. We've asked the Labour Party, obviously, for a comment. We haven't heard back from them yet.
We'll hear more later on. So that breaking news then. Donald Trump's presidential campaign has filed a complaint against the Labour Party for what it claims is interference in the US election. A statement on his website said that the Trump-Vance campaign has filed a Federal Election Commission complaint against the Harris-Walz campaign and the Labour Party of the United Kingdom for illegal foreign campaign contributions and interference in our elections. More to come, no doubt, on that. John, thank you very much indeed. Well, we've talked about the Middle East. Let's return there. More than a dozen people have been killed in a fresh round of Israeli airstrikes on Beirut. Lebanon's health ministry says the blasts caused significant damage to the country's largest public hospital. Israel's military says it hit a Hezbollah target. Adam Parsons has more now on this.
Israel said it would attack Beirut, and it did. One missile brought down this whole building. It had already been evacuated. Now it was obliterated. In a matter of seconds, simply pulverized. Israel has attacked a series of targets in Lebanon, saying it's pursuing Hezbollah. This campaign is not slowing. This was the devastation near the Rafik Hariri Hospital, the largest public hospital in Lebanon. The airstrike came overnight. Lebanon's health ministry says at least 18 people died here.
I have a brother who is still under the rubble. His mobile's ringing. We're trying to search for him, but there's no way for a machine to get here. No one can help us pull him out. I don't know if he's dead or still alive.
But there is another hospital firmly in Israel's sights. It claims that this, the Al Sahel facility, conceals a bunker where Hezbollah has stored hundreds of millions of dollars worth of cash and gold. Sky News looked round the basement of this hospital today. No sign of the bunker and a flat denial from the staff.
These allegations are wholly unbased, and this is a hospital where people come to get treated. As you can see, this is an operating theater. People undergo surgery here.
Israel insists the bunker is here. It says it won't attack, but is watching how the Lebanese government responds. The American Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, was back in Israel once again, urging Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to seek a path to peace. But at the same time, Israel's soldiers are pushing on. There's no sign of a let-up. Adam Parsons, Sky News, Jerusalem.
Well, meanwhile, the humanitarian situation in Gaza is continuing to worsen day by day. The US Secretary of State Antony Blinken is in Israel to try to kickstart ceasefire talks again as agencies express their concerns over the amount of aid getting to those displaced in the Gaza Strip. Well, yesterday we showed you these pictures. On your screen now, hundreds of people in the Jabalia refugee camp in northern Gaza, apparently being rounded up, ordered to flee. The UN today released a report warning that Gaza may not be able to recover from the destruction caused there. Well, joining me now is Jan Egeland, Secretary-General of the Norwegian Refugee Council. Very good to see you here. How critical, then, is the situation in northern Gaza? Certainly the head of the Palestinian Refugee Agency calling for an immediate temporary ceasefire, talking about bodies literally lying on the streets or under rubble.
I mean, it's absolutely nightmarish, the situation there. I got a report again now this evening from our colleagues inside Gaza. We have more than 58 workers, humanitarian workers on the ground. And they describe a horrific situation across this densely populated small enclave, which is Gaza. But in the north, there is 100,000 people completely besieged within the general siege of Gaza. No aid coming in and people rounded up. No witnesses to what's happening. There needs to be a ceasefire immediately. This is horrors on our watch. And Israel is being aided by Western power with arms and with money, and they have their fingerprints also all over this.
So you are in no doubt it is a siege. Certainly Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders called it a siege earlier this evening. Why is it a siege? What are you witnessing?
Because nobody's getting in, no aid is coming in. All of Gaza is under a siege because there is not even a truck coming in without the occupying force, allowing it in. They then have said in the north, we want to starve this enclave in the north.
Who said
because
that?
Israel says so, because there are Hamas fighters inside, and therefore there is a besiegement within the besiegement for for the North.
Well, Israel's military humanitarian unit, Kojat, which oversees aid and commercial shipments to Gaza, said today that 237 trucks containing humanitarian aid, so that's water, food, medical supplies, shelter equipment as well, all from Jordan and the international community, were transferred to the northern Gaza Strip over the past 8 days. So they say aid is getting in. Also, the Israelis today told Antony Blinken, the US Secretary of State, that isolating northern Gaza was not their policy. Do you think it's their policy?
It is their policy, and I'm often surprised that journalists believe that parties to that kind of a conflict tell the truth. They're not. Neither Israel nor Hamas nor Hezbollah are telling the truth in such a situation. It's absolutely horrendous situation all across Gaza, and it is particularly bad in northern Gaza, and the United States themselves said so. Israel, you have 30 days to fix this, because you haven't fixed it so far. There is no free access for humanitarian aid, and not even the United States have been able to turn this around. There has been much harder pressure from the Western powers.
So what is your assessment of what Israel's intention is for the north of Gaza right now?
Well, the intention there is very clear. They are willing to do anything to root out the last Hamas fighter, which means that it is an indiscriminate campaign. It has been indiscriminate since the horrors of Hamas and all of these other groups that went on a rampage inside Israel on the 7th of October. Since then, it has been an indiscriminate campaign. There is no justification to killing women and children in the thousands.
But why did those people stay, though? They were told to leave right at the beginning of the ground invasion. So why did people stay in the north?
They left the north. Again and again, Israel has said, I think it's 36 relocation orders. Many of my staff, NRC colleagues who are Palestinians, have been displaced 5, 6, 7, 8 times. When there was an attack on Rafah in the south, many fled back north. So these are people who flee back north. Again, many times they have been told even to go back north.
You saw in our earlier interview how this issue is starting to affect the US election in the Arab-American areas of Michigan, one of the battleground states. What would you say right now to either the Biden administration or Donald Trump, if he wins, or right now to Secretary of State Blinken, who is in the region, about how to put an end to this and how to stop this?
Yeah, I would say, since we all agree that Russian occupation of Ukraine is really very bad, how come Israeli occupation of the West Bank and besiegements and occupation of Gaza seems to be tolerable? It's intolerable, really, and it's a stain on these Western powers, and it has lost them public opinion in the rest of the world. We're told when we travel around, you Westerners are hypocrites on an industrial scale. This is something that has to change. I think the US is realizing that, and there will need to be much, much more pressure on the stronger party here, as there needs to be pressure for anyone who can put any pressure on the militant groups on the Arab side.
Jan Egeland, good to have you on. Thank you very much indeed. Well, stay with us on The World. After the break, Putin's attempt to show nothing can keep him off the global stage. The Russian leader hosts world leaders for the annual Brics summit, but is all what it seems?
we've got your Sunday mornings covered. From the front page and the sounds of the streets to the voices of the people who make the major calls and big picture politics beyond Westminster. We'll put you at the heart of our story. A new start to Sunday.
I'm ready. Are you?
Join me, Trevor Phillips, Sunday mornings on Sky News.
Well, welcome back. We're going to cross to Russia now. Vladimir Putin has been hosting world leaders for the annual Brics summit. Among his guests, China's Xi Jinping and India's Narendra Modi. Some see it as an attempt to prove to the West that sanctions or isolation simply won't work. Well, Ivor Bennett joins me now from Kazan. And Ivor, so much then for an isolated Russia. There he is, glad-handing leaders and delegates of nations representing, what, 45% of the world's population?
Yeah, that's right, Anna. For Vladimir Putin, I think the optics really couldn't be any better. We are more than 2.5 years into his war in Ukraine, with the West casting him as a war criminal, as a global pariah, and yet here he is hosting this international summit in the middle of Russia that's being attended by more than 20 heads of state. As you say, China's Xi Jinping is here, India's Narendra Modi, Iran's new president Massad Boulos will be here. So too, even Turkey's President Erdogan, the head of a NATO member state. And the message from the Kremlin is loud and clear. It's that the West's attempts to isolate Russia haven't worked. Instead of losing friends, Moscow has been making them. As you say, the leaders are here in Kazan to attend the Brics Summit of Emerging Economies. Now, for years, the group was dismissed by economists as nothing more than an alphabet soup. Its members too widely dispersed and too different from one another to form any meaningful alliance. But in the last few years, they seem to have got their act together. They've grown in relevance and the group has grown in size. 5 countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. That's become 9, with the likes of Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran and the UAE all joining recently. Saudi Arabia has also been invited too. And according to Russia, more than 30 countries have either expressed interest in becoming a member of the club or at the very least forging closer ties. And for Vladimir Putin, this is exactly what he wants. He wants to use Russia's turn as the host for this summit to build the group up into a powerful rival to the West, both politically and economically, to create what he calls a new world order. It has to be said, not everyone here agrees with his anti-Western sentiment. The likes of Brazil, India, they share close ties with the West, which they don't want to lose. So they're really playing both sides here, pursuing their own interests. But nevertheless, for Vladimir Putin, he has what he wants. He has that very powerful visual currency of him being surrounded by all these other global leaders.
Well, plenty more from you in Kazan. Ivor, thank you. Well, stay with us on The World. After the break, we will cross back to the US election. We'll take a deep dive into how Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are faring in the polls and with the bookies.
That has happened within minutes, and now it's coming from both sides. And it's moving this way.
Only about half a mile from the Turkish coast, and it's evident that the boat is seriously overcrowded. This is one of the most severe viruses in the world. I'm Alex Crawford and I'm Sky's special correspondent based in Istanbul.
This is going to be the biggest party Tripoli has ever seen.
That's it got us then. There's a lot of action going on, a lot of hits coming in still. We aim to be the best and the most trusted place in news.
Clearly not had very much to eat at all. A lot of them extremely thin and very frail. Look at her arms. I can put my entire hand round.
This is the cocktail of drugs which the doctors at this hospital have been giving their coronavirus patients. Made for people who want clarity in an uncertain world.
Mother Nature can be vicious, absolutely savage. The world's largest falls now down to a trickle in places. I can't imagine how much plastic is lying at the bottom of this huge lake. Whoa!
Close and personal with the rhino.
This is what makes the job so fantastic.
Our app gives you the very best of Sky News wherever you are. Breaking news, videos and analysis.
Evidence of the crisis.
Podcasts, watching us live. I'm live in Jerusalem.
Wherever you get your podcast.
All in one place and all at just the touch of a screen. The Sky News app. Get the full story first.
Day of this conflict. They keep telling us that they want aid.
And this is what's left of it.
Tanks, heavy vehicle.
Why only in America?
People want their country to work.
Just want a job in a normal life.
Why are these homes empty?
I want you to be honest with people.
That has happened within minutes.
Sky News, the full story first. Free wherever you get your news.
I say, bring it on.
With America divided and tensions running high, get ready for an election like no other.
Join our teams as we follow the campaign trail as America decides.
We will win, win, win.
Get closer to the action this US election with full reaction and analysis.
Sky News, the full story first.
Well, welcome back. With just a fortnight to go, the US election polls remain pretty much deadlocked. But in the past few days, the bookies appear to have made up their mind on who will be the next resident of the White House, as our data and forensics correspondent Tom Cheshire explains.
How do you predict an election? It is so hard this time, but we've talked about different data sources, what national polls tell us versus betting markets. Betting markets, a lot more reactive. But something else is happening with betting markets, which is really interesting over the last few days. But we'll start with the Sky Poll Tracker, the average of the most recent polls from each pollster. This is a familiar picture here. And you can see that consistent Harris lead, but actually it's down slightly, 2 points. And the problem with 2 points is it is not enough to say who will win. But some people are pretty confident who will win. Let's look at the bookies' favourite to become the next US president. And this is the race until about the beginning of October. And this is a real tussle. You can see each candidate edging ahead, falling behind. Hard to say who will go until about the start of the month here. But look what happens after that. Donald Trump pulls away. He's really becoming a strong, strong favourite amongst the bookies to become the next US president. Now, why might that be the case? I think some of it obviously comes down to the fact it will be swing states that decide this. And let's look at the polling now. Again, this is the polling. This isn't the betting data. We'll get to the betting data after this. The swing states, this shows anything on the left in blue is for Harris. Anything on the right for red is for Donald Trump. And that might look pretty good. Actually, you've got Nevada, which is obviously very solidly Harris. But the rest of these, really, actually, the leads are so small. Again, it's within the margin of error. Either of these states could go for either candidates. And the betting markets are saying, well, something else is going to happen. Let's look at that. This shows the latest odds for the state races from Sky Bet and Polymarket. Anything in red is for Trump. And you can see there's a real change here, that there's a real lot of bets being put on for Donald Trump. They think he is going to win those states. And if he wins those states, he will become president. But again, this shows some of the limitations. So you've got Polymarket really going for Trump here. That's a cryptocurrency. Digital currency, it might have a different demographic from Sky Bet, which is more British, more European customers, and it still gives Michigan and Nevada to Harris. It wouldn't be enough. But again, that shows some of the limitations of this. These are two different bets. They've got two different answers. So this is really, really interesting data, but it doesn't tell us yet who is going to win this election.
Tom Cheshire there. Well, just under 2 weeks to go then until the big night. You'll be able to follow all the twists and turns of the US election here on Sky News. For now, thank you for watching. I'll be back tomorrow. Sky News at 10 is next. Good night.